All right, let's get right into it. We're going to break down a massive shift that's happening in Saudi Arabia's pharmaceutical world. We'll be using the latest reports from the Saudi Food and Drug Authority, the SFDA, and some key updates to their guidelines. We're going to find out why so many companies are failing inspections and, more importantly, what it really takes to stay compliant in this market that's changing so fast. Okay, let's start with a really big number, 60.9%. Get this. That is the projected annual growth rate for the Saudi pharmacovigilance market. To put that into perspective for you, we're talking about a sector that's on track to be worth almost $50 million by 2030. I mean, that's just explosive. And when you see that kind of growth, you can bet the regulators are watching closely. The Saudi Food and Drug Authority has definitely taken notice. In 2025, it wasn't just about raising the bar for safety monitoring. Nope, they completely changed the game. So what does this new reality actually look like on the ground? Well, the SFDA is moving on from the old way of doing things. Simple check-ins, calendar-based audits. They're now using a much smarter, more sophisticated, risk-based approach to how they watch over things. And here is the absolute key change. It's what they're calling a performance-based model. What that really means is that the SFDA is now actively tracking how companies are performing on safety metrics. They're using that data to decide when to inspect, triggered by specific concerns, safety signals, or even just a poor compliance history. And this chart right here proves this isn't just talk. Look at this. In 2025, 4 cause inspections, the ones triggered because something went wrong, actually outnumbered the routine scheduled ones. That one little shift tells you everything you need to know. The SFDA isn't waiting around anymore. They are actively hunting for problems. This is their new aggressive stance in action. So the driving force behind this whole shift is the new Good Pharmacovigilance Practices Update, GVP version 3.2. Throughout 2025, it rolled out a whole series of really specific new requirements. And this touched everything, from data privacy, like masking personal information in safety reports, all the way to a complete overhaul of how companies are expected to manage safety signals internally. These are the brand new rules that make that performance-based model. Okay, so now we have this new, much more intense level of scrutiny. The big question is, where are companies actually failing? Well, the inspection data tells a very, very clear story. And this image just perfectly illustrates the problem. This is a breakdown straight from the SFDA's 2025 report. And you can see the findings aren't random at all. They are seriously concentrated in 3 main pillars of any safety system: how adverse reactions are reported, the role of the qualified person, and the system's master file. 19. Across just 7 inspections in 2025, the SFDA handed out 19 critical findings. Now, let's be clear, a critical finding is not a minor slip-up. It's the most severe failure. It means there's a direct risk to patient safety, or a fundamental part of the safety system is just completely broken. So let's look at our first case study. This one is all about the qualified person for pharmacovigilance, or the QPV. This person is supposed to be the captain of the ship, the ultimate overseer of the entire safety system in the country. But what inspectors found were local QPPVs who were totally cut off from their own global systems. Can you believe it? Some had no access to the company's main safety database, which means they couldn't even look at or validate local safety reports. Their job descriptions were just generic templates that didn't even mention their specific Saudi responsibilities. They were basically just figureheads with no real authority to do their job. All right, next up, critical failures related to the Pharmacovigilance System Master File, the PSMF. You can think of this document as the core blueprint for a company's entire safety system. It's supposed to describe exactly how every single part of it works. What inspectors were finding instead were master files that were completely useless for the local market. Some were based on old, outdated templates that weren't compliant with the new Saudi rules. Others were just a high-level summary of the global system, completely failing to describe the actual safety processes happening in Saudi Arabia. And get this, in one case, the QPPP couldn't even get their hands on the file during the inspection. And for our final case study, we're looking at the area that's a repeat offender, with the highest number of findings year after year: managing and reporting adverse drug reactions. This is really the front line of patient safety. And here, companies were failing at the most basic level. They weren't providing easy, local ways for patients and doctors to report safety issues. We're talking about things like no dedicated Saudi phone number, Arabic websites that were either broken or didn't exist at all, and old, outdated contact info buried somewhere on a global corporate site. They were effectively blocking the flow of safety information before it could even get started. Okay, so we've seen all the ways things can go wrong. It's pretty serious stuff. But what does it look like when things go right? Well, the good news is the SFDI report also gives us a really clear picture of what good actually looks like. The report basically hands companies a playbook. It's all about one thing: localization. So instead of a generic global website, you need a dedicated Saudi phone number and an Arabic reporting portal. Instead of having a global team assess cases, the local QPV has to be involved. And you can't just use your global procedures with EU timelines. You need a specific Saudi annex that lays out the local requirements. It's all about being local. And this focus on local applies to the really technical tasks too. Take literature screening, for example. Just relying on big global databases like PubMed, that's now considered a failure. The best practice, and what the SFDA expects, is that you're actively and regularly screening local Saudi medical journals. And here's the kicker: you have to document that you've done it, even if you find nothing. So let's put all this together. How can a company move past just fixing individual problems when they pop up and start building a system that's truly ready for an inspection at any moment? You don't even have to guess what the core problem is. The SFDA tells you directly in its report. The issue isn't a lack of paperwork. It's what they call a failure of governance execution, which is really just a fancy way of saying there's a huge gap between what the documents say and what people actually do day to day. So the answer here is to get proactive. It's about building a culture of readiness. This means using tools like dashboards to track your compliance in real time. It means auditing your own systems with the same tough, risk-based mindset that the SFDA uses. And it means that when you do find a problem, you have a solid system to fix its root cause, not just put a Band-Aid on the symptom. And the thing is, you don't have to do this all on your own. The SFDA itself runs workshops specifically to help professionals understand these new rules. It's a chance to discuss your real-world challenges and get clear answers straight from the regulators themselves. It's an invaluable way to close any knowledge gaps on your team. So when all is said and done, what's the one thing you really need to take away from all this? It's this: having a globally compliant pharmacovigilance system is no longer good enough. The real question the SFDA is asking, and the one you should be asking yourselves, is whether your system is truly Saudi ready. Because in 2025 and beyond, it's those local details that matter most.